To have a crazy amount of sales, you have to do crazy things.
Yeah.
And something that gives him the energy to create that many listings and sales is he goes in a sauna, a 60-degree sauna for half an hour, then jumps in a plunge pool. Now, that sounds ridiculous to a lot of people, but not to him. To him, that's the reason that he's successful. He said it's changed his life. So I think one thing I took from him is to get crazy results, you got to do crazy things.
You're listening to Elevate, the official podcast of Elite Agent magazine for real estate industry sales professionals, property managers, and leaders. Each episode, we bring you behind the scenes coaching, news analysis, exclusive interviews, technology, and more to help you list more, sell more, and elevate your results. To subscribe to the magazine, visit eliteagent.com.au/subscribe. Here is your host, Samantha McLean.
So welcome to a very special episode of the Elevate podcast. I'm Samantha McLean from Elite Agent, and I'm joined by Adam Bryan and Bobby Reynolds from Agency Central. Hi, guys.
How are you going?
So you guys were part of the extended Elite Agent team at ARIC, which we had a blast having you guys around, primarily because you guys have got some great ideas with content marketing and all that sort of thing. So we kind of loved having you around. And you were there specifically for a few reasons. One was to take over our Insta account. How was that?
That was fun. So I took most control of that in terms of holding the phone and capturing most of the footage for the day. I think what was really cool was during the day having people come up to us and say, hey, we've been watching your story. It's fun. It's exciting. Not only that, I think it was cool to have people that weren't at ARIC kind of getting a chance to see exactly what was there. We didn't just talk to the speakers. We also showed some of the stalls that were there, our thoughts on what the speakers said as well. So, yeah, I had fun with the Instagram, that's for sure.
Yeah, I would describe it as exhausting, but really, really good fun. It was obviously trying to come up with different ways to present what happens at ARIC and have a fresh take on that. We're getting to interview some of the speakers and getting to see some of it while still trying to piece together some new content. That was a lot of fun.
So it was fun for us to hand over the reins to someone else to do it. And the method in our madness, just for the listeners, was that often we interview a lot of agents and things like that at ARIC, but what we really wanted was from the perspective of agents, because everyone knows I'm not a real estate agent, I'm a writer. And you guys have been in the business for a while, and how good was it to actually be able to ask people like, well, we chose Tom Hector and we chose Alex Mintorn, who were two of the most popular speakers. What was it like interviewing those guys?
It's good. So we picked those guys primarily because they're just two different ends of the spectrum in terms of how you operate and how you are with people. And we have examples of both in our business. They have qualities that are similar across each other, but you look at someone like Tom Hector, who's very process-driven. There's a lot to learn from a process-driven business. And you look at Alex, who still implements processes like an absolute champion, but is probably a bit more relaxed and personable in how he does it. And they're both very, very effective because they know how their businesses work. So interviewing people across that whole broad spectrum is good for us to say, all right, well, we like this, we like that. It was also good to sort of, as agents, drill down on the questions that we have heard the answers to before, but wanted to know a little bit deeper.
It's funny you mentioned that they're two completely different agents, because I guess we could tell just from their talk that they're completely different. But they even said it in the podcast that we did. Alex said, I'm not a systems person. And Tommy said, I'm very process driven, so you're right. For them to actually know it as well, it's cool to say that you can be successful doing it multiple different ways.
Yeah, so it's like, what do they say? You do you.
Yeah, because you're not a systems person doesn't mean you can't be successful, as Alex is, and the opposite way around as well.
So there's hope for people like me.
Yes, and me. Don't worry, me as well.
Did you meet anyone apart from the guys? And we're going to get onto the guys. And, of course, this week's podcast is Tom Hector. So before we get onto that, did you see anything that stood out in the expo or anyone that you saw in terms of your own business?
From the expo standpoint, Elite Agent.
Oh.
Yeah, we're not even obligated to say that, but really you guys stood out a lot. No.
Genuinely. What you guys had going on, there was constant activity there, and that allowed us to meet a lot of people that were just attending ARIC, as well as the speakers that came by to hang out with you guys and get involved in the green screen that you had, the magazine cover that you had done. And just seeing that there was thousands of agents there and having them flow past your stand, having a chat to them about how they were finding it, that was cool.
Yeah, it is nice to connect with people that may have similar challenges. Mm-hmm. And I know certainly in that We Are Real Estate story, everyone's success, like everyone's memorable moment was very similar. It was getting that monster deal over the line and making someone really, really happy. So, like even though there are differences like you saw in Tom and Alex, what binds you together is very much the same too.
Yeah, and
That's a good way to put it.
I think something that was interesting for me, and I think Adam can attest to this as well, was some of the agents that we were talking to, when they asked, what were we doing here? And we told them we're agents that have been approached by a lead agent in terms of helping them out. They were shocked and surprised to hear that. But then when we told them what we do in terms of, hey, we've got a vlog, we do a podcast, social media, blah, 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 they were all like, wow, we should be doing this as well. There's nothing stopping you guys doing this. And when they saw there's actually some success from it, I mean, we haven't been doing it for long, but look at us. We're here on the Elite Agent podcast, so we are seeing some traction, and it's just up to them to try the same thing.
Well, you two demonstrated some real journalistic skills in that 2 days, in that James Clear was not giving any interviews. I mean, we must have tried half a dozen times to get to James Clear. Mm-hmm. And somehow you guys managed to, I couldn't be more proud if I was like Nina King and this was new idea of you two, coming back with the video of James.
TMZ or something like that.
Yeah, it was so good. So how did you manage to get to him?
Firstly, we knew that he wasn't doing any speeches. And I was a little bit defeated by that because if, even the big guys, like Tom Panelson, that can't get him, surely we can't. But Adam just turned to me and goes, "No, I'm going." He just ran. So we went to this little spot where we found people walking out of the stage. And then we went to a part that we weren't meant to go through, but it's a once-in-a-lifetime chance to have a shot.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, go. Yeah.
He was such a gentleman too, but reality is if we're there and we're like, hey, how you going? He's not going to say, leave me alone. He'll have a chat, and he did. He was lovely.
Yeah, I don't know anyone who's a fan of something that someone's written at some point that won't give you the time of day, but I just...
Yeah, and that's what was really nice as well, was that he did give me the time of day. I told him that his book did have an impact on my life. And he's like, that's huge, thank you for telling me that. So it was nice to get that little chance meeting. Thanks to Adam for making us do that too. But it really worked out. He's like, aren't you glad we went? I'm like, bloody oath. Yes, we are.
Accountability right there.
Yeah, that's what I was like. Yeah,
right there.
Try those crazy things.
All to the very end. What about some of the other superstars like Barbara Corcoran?
Oh my God, Barbara is a beast. If she was there, it would have been even more impactful, I think, because they did that via correspondence. But I just sat there and every answer she gave to a question was just excellent. You can tell that she's a boss. We went straight back to our company and immediately were telling those guys about her system for how she interviews people when she's hiring agents. I've not heard anything as cool as that. So, yeah, certainly some things that she put out there were amazing.
Yeah, so what is the key to hiring agents for Barbara Corcoran?
Yeah, so this was amazing. So she said she's hired, trained and fired over 8,000 agents in her business. And when she interviews people now, she's looking for that aggressiveness, that fight in a potential new agent. And this is the way she does it. She says, look, we've identified 2 key qualities in our most successful agents. The first is empathy. And I see it in you. You've got it. You're excellent. You've got so much empathy. I can tell. You can read people. You can read the play. And she was saying, look, we tell them that. We're buttering them up. If they got empathy, if they don't, I don't care. I'm telling them you're good at this. The next thing she says is, I'm concerned about the second one, though. The second one is aggressiveness, and I don't think you've got it. She said, the ones that argue with me and fight back, I hire.
Yeah.
The ones that go into their shell from hearing that, they clearly don't have that aggressiveness and they're not part of my team.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool.
We'll definitely be implementing that when we start hiring. Yeah.
And she did say as well, originally she was going for the Harvard graduates and the people with the long list of resumes, but this is essentially what she boils it down to now.
I think she's right. Too many people just lie on CVs at the moment. Our recruitment process here is now a form. Fill in a form and don't bother sending me your CV until you've sort of proven that you've actually got the skills to do the job.
Well, it's rare that someone's bad on a CV.
No, yeah, well, exactly.
Yeah, who's going to say that?
It's like Tinder. Like no one's putting their worst pictures on the dating app. I'd imagine.
You don't use it? No.
No, haven't. That was after me.
Chris Hanley's question comes to mind too. Like, what am I not going to like about you in 3 months' time?
I like that one.
Yeah.
I like that one.
You'd be surprised what comes up. So, okay, so let's talk about Tom. Let's get on to Tom.
Yep.
Tom Hector. So he is a bit of a machine. He works for Harris Real Estate. He's been a superstar since he was 26. I think this is his second time speaking at ARIC. What were some of the main things that you took away from your chat with Tom?
It goes back to that saying, to have a special life, have to do special things. I can kind of twist that a little bit for him. Like to have a crazy amount of sales, you have to do crazy things.
Yeah.
And something that gives him the energy to create that many listings and sales is he goes in a sauna, a 60-degree sauna for half an hour, then jumps in a plunge pool. Now, that sounds ridiculous to a lot of people, but not to him. To him, that's the reason that he's successful. He said it's changed his life. So I think one thing I took from him is to get crazy results, you do crazy things.
Yeah, that's interesting, actually, because obviously I listened to the podcast and then I thought, geez, all of a sudden I'm Googling infrared saunas.
Yep.
Like,
they're well worth having, yeah. And if you want to know why, There's a podcast by a guy named Ben Greenfield who will dive into all of the benefits of those sorts of things for your energy. For Tom Hector, what I found really, really interesting was, like we said, how organised and process-driven he was, but how he would not just be a planner, he was all about implementation. So he would have his organisation, he would have his process, and he would go out there and execute and do. And when we were talking about how you grow your team, and he's talking about, look, it's trial and error in terms of you get this right, you figure out what works, you add this piece, that piece. I think that's a really good blend of character in terms of why he's doing so well.
Yeah, everything's a test till it's not, right? So you guys are going to be back next week again with your podcast with Alex Mintorn. But for now, let's get cracking and let's have a listen to Tom Hector.
Can't wait.
Tom, when it was just you and you were getting started, how did you build momentum as a new agent?
Yeah, so for me, when I first started in real estate, it was a lot different to obviously where I am now because I didn't have a team around me and I was doing everything myself. So all I can say is it's brutally hard work, long hours, early mornings, late nights, and you really got to own your time. So when you are obviously prospecting, you've got to prospect religiously in that block of time, and then obviously with build inspections and valuations and the administration tasks, you do that in the morning or segment time in the afternoon to ensure that you're not running around doing 10 things at once.
Yeah, and look, take us through maybe an example. When you say you're doing prospecting calls, what sort of calls are you making at the beginning?
Yeah, when I first started, I was very fanatical about open for inspection sheets. So old open for inspection sheets for other agents that had maybe left our organisation or Phil had sold other properties previously. And then that data obviously was just built over time in my database with first names, last names, mobile numbers, email addresses. And then from there, I'd start to build a name for myself, so I'd start to keep in contact with these people. And over a period of time, you'd start to see the results, but it wasn't overnight success.
Before you noticed people starting to call you, how long did that process?
It took about a year.
Okay.
A year. But you think about it though, if you're making between 30, 50, 80 calls a day, consistently day in, day out, there's a large number of people that you're actually communicating with. Now, not all of them are obviously going to ring you to come and want to sell their property or an opportunity to at least praise their property.
Yeah.
But what I was finding though is that I was starting to get some movement and people think, you know what, this Tom's kept in contact with me for a long period of time. Why not? I'm going to give him a call.
What we realised from your speech here, Aaron, is that you're very organised, definitely very process-driven as well, by the sounds of it. Am I right?
I'm extremely process-driven because when you're selling a large number of properties, whether you like it or not, you have to be process-driven because if you're not, things are definitely going to go wrong. And then when you're conducting 15, 20, 25 open for inspections on a Saturday, you just have to move that stock because if it gets dead after 30 or 45 days, the vendors start to dislike you.
Yep.
They start to obviously want to go with a different agent, or they start blaming you that you're the problem, not the actual price.
So with your process or your day, how does it look? From the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, what's a day in your life?
Yeah, so it's just a very simple. So I get up obviously at 5:30, 6 o'clock
Same
normally.
time every
Yeah, between 5:30 and 6. I'm not anal about that, but I'm obviously doing some form of exercise in the mornings. I'm always in the office between 7:30 and 7:45 for our team meeting at 8 o'clock. And then between 8 and 8:30, we're having our team meeting. And then between 8:30 and 12, that's just a purely dollar productive activity. So I'm just sitting on the phone from 8:30 until 12 with my assistant Emma next to me, Tony, and then the three of us are obviously working out what tasks are completed for the day. But I'm just religiously making those phone calls, whereas my buyer's agents might be doing buyer work or working on other open for inspection callback sheets, versus me, I'm just focusing purely and utterly on my database, which is past clients, past market appraisals, and obviously people I've met at open for inspections in the last 10 years.
What about once you finished up your day at work, you get home, what's your day?
That's a really, really good question. So the way in which I run my business is obviously, like you spoke about, I'm very focused on the AM prospecting, then PM's obviously appraisals. So I've normally got a 2, 4 and a 6 o'clock listing appointment. I may list 1 or 2 properties that day, but I'll come home and I'll always spend 20 or 30 minutes making sure I'll send emails out to my team and I'll start to get those agency agreements prepared to give to my assistant Emma in the morning. I want to make sure when I go to bed at night, I know exactly what they've got to do for the following day.
Everything's done. You can go to bed and not worry about it.
So I've got a sheet that looks like I just know exactly what I'm going through at the end of each day. And then when I get up in the morning, I don't have to worry about, I've got to fix that. Versus I've sent emails, they're going to Emma and Tony, my other 2 administrative assistants, at 7:30, 7:45, so they're like timed, so they're not going out the night before. I don't want to disturb them. That's my time.
Fair enough.
I don't want to disturb them after hours. It works really well.
Beautiful. From an energy management standpoint, I think something that startled a few people in your presentation as well was infrared sauna and a plunge pool. But energy's massive, right?
for me, that really changed my life. I got into this infrared sauna through my business partner, Phil Harris. He managed to buy a 4-person sauna. I unfortunately couldn't in my garage. It was too big, so I decided to buy a 1.5 person, but it's really a 1-person sauna, but it works extremely well for me. But it was only going back Friday night where before I came to Arik, I came here obviously on Saturday morning and I had a cold plunge straight after my real hot sauna, 30 minutes at about 60 to 70 degrees. The last 10 minutes is brutal, but you come out of there invigorated. And the way in which you feel, like I spoke about in my presentation, the sensation of feeling good allows me to do what I do.
Yeah, definitely. And look, we were blown away by your breakdown of your suburb, which is Ross Trevor.
Yeah.
You break it into 4 different areas, but what blew us away even further was the breakdown of the different property types within those 4 different areas of your core suburb. So how does somebody go about becoming a household name in a suburb?
It's purely and utterly around saturation of marketing material. So if you want to do it, like we've heard from a number of different speakers this Arik, I've really heard probably 2 or 3 other speakers today talking about market dominance, and it's through obviously mailbox, it's through social media targeting, and then obviously through billboards. But I really worked on door knocking, cold calling and mailbox drops. That was my biggest threat in my 2 years when I first started. And then over time, I got more and more boards up. And now the signboard presence allows me to sell lots and lots of properties.
Definitely. In our business, we always talk about trying to achieve micro fame in a particular area. So almost like, I'm sure in Ross Trevor, you go and get coffee. The people that work there know you. The people that are drinking coffee there know you. You go to the shops, people know you. You go here, there, everywhere, people know you. So the goal would be achieving micro fame in your area, right?
Definitely. Yep.
Yep.
So for me now, it was a consistent burn over a long period of time. And I spoke about that yesterday about I just do the basics well every day. And when I don't feel like doing it, I do it. And you know what? Do I feel like doing it every day? No, I don't. But you know what? I get it done because I have to.
So how many people do you have in your team?
I've got myself. I've obviously got Jared, who's my assistant buy manager / junior agent. He's been with me for 5 years. He purely gets paid a split of every deal we sell plus a salary. And he produces about $300,000 in income for the team in gross commission. And that's through open for inspections, his clients and people I've given him over the last 5 years. So he works those pieces of stock with me, but he obviously does all the buyer and seller work himself. I've then got Angus, he's just in 19, got into real estate recently. His role is purely around overflow of buyer work for myself, and he's starting to do the same thing that Jared did, build obviously his client base through his market area and his database. And then I've got 2 administrators. So I've got a professional assistant that sits in the office from 8 until 5. Her role is to purely and utterly do administration tasks, give my clients world-class customer service. And then I've got Tony Brooks. Now, I like to call that position the gopher. Because really it is the gopher role.
Yeah.
When you're doing such a large number of volume of sales, you need to obviously people with build inspections, valuations, pre-settlement inspections, pricing all my properties, getting price reduction emails sent. Like there's such a large flow of things that need to be done to give my clients the best customer service. Whereas before, I didn't have that second administrator. I only got that person 2 years ago. So I've had 1 administrator and that really caused too much conflict within my team.
How did you know when it was time to bring someone on? And like that happens at each point when you hire someone new.
Volume.
Okay.
It's purely volume. It's not so much gross commission, it's volume, because the more volume you do, the more headaches you have, the more building inspections you have, the more people that want to ask you for obviously buyer appointments during the week, the more your phone rings. Like when you get to volume and you sell lots and lots of properties, you need help on the floor.
Did you have a predetermined volume that you said, look, when I get to X amount per annum, I need to bring some...
It was trial and error.
Yeah.
It was purely trial and error.
Yeah.
And there's no perfect scenario, but once you get to 150 sales, I believe you need that 5th person in your team. Everyone's different. Everyone runs their team differently. But if you want longevity, if you want to be around for 6 to 12 months doing those big numbers at 150 sales, sure. But if you want to be doing 200 sales for the next 10 years, you have to have longevity.
And in the person that you're hiring, is there a particular quality that you're looking for? Or is there a couple of things?
I always look for attitude. I can teach skill. So I'm all about just finding a nice human being. Because in my opinion, that's all I care about. And hopefully I conveyed that message yesterday that I am a real person in real time. Like what you see with Tom is what you get.
I think that's definitely what wins a lot of business. You could tell immediately. And look, I suppose maintaining excellence was the core focus of your presentation. What are the major skills you believe an agent needs to maintain excellence on top of being a decent human being?
Yeah, I think the most important aspect is continual improvement, like looking at ways into which you can fast track your career or fast track a system and a procedure to get you better and more effective at what you do.
Curiosity.
Yeah, so I come to Arik and this is my 11th Arik, like I mentioned to you yesterday, and I'll go home tomorrow and I'll go home tonight and I'll go home and I'm in my marketplace again tomorrow. I've got lots of appraisals up and I'm ready to get back into it. But I want to spend a good day in my business in the next few weeks and just really get some pinned manipulation strategies ready for the next financial year. And that's where I've always grown. I'm always looking for that next magic bullet in my business to make it better. Now, it's a game of inches at the moment to get my business better because I've grown my business so substantially. Yeah. But at the same time, though, I'm a human. My business is not bulletproof. And at the end of the day, no speaker here at stage is bulletproof. You're only as ever good as your last listing or your last sale.
You mentioned yesterday, actually, speaking of magic bullet, maybe 10-15% of people that are here at ARIC will actually take something away and use it or implement it when they get back to the business. A little sad, but probably true. If you were to give our listeners just one snippet that the 100% of people can take home with them and use, what would that one thing be?
To be upfront with you, I reckon the book Scaling Up by Vern Harnish, taking that from a business point of view, is something you definitely listen to on an audiobook or just buy. So the reason that's such a prolific impact on my career is it just talks about quarterly themes, quarterly projects, and then the Everest mission of where you want your business to be, because we are a business within a business. Yeah. So take it off from a business point of view, treat it as a salesperson, but what are the quarterly projects? What are the annual projects in your team to get you where you want it to be?
Very good. You can tell you're passionate about it. I know you're very, very busy here at ARIC for the weekend, so I appreciate you hanging out with us for a little bit.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much.
To subscribe to the magazine, visit eliteagent.com.au/subscribe.